It's like my kids forget what happens.
Good evening, everyone, or with daylight saving time, I can say good afternoon, everyone. This is the March 12, 2018 Committee of the Whole meeting of the DeKalb City Council. Just a reminder for any folks who would like to speak to any items on our agenda, either of the Committee of the Whole or our regular council meeting tonight, I would ask you to fill out a speaker request form. They're found in the back. And if you'd kindly give those to our city clerk, Susanna Herman, she can get those up to me and we'll try to accommodate anyone who would like to speak. Having said that, roll call, please.
Jacobson? Fanouken?
Here.
Marquardt?
Here.
Fagan?
Here.
Noriko?
Here.
Verbeck?
Here.
Favor?
Here?
Smith?
Here.
7 present.
There are no items that are on the regular agenda that are on the Committee of the Whole meeting, so we'll move on. We have 3 considerations tonight, and to enable us to avoid running over like we did a couple of meetings ago, we have a long agenda, it appears, for our regular council meeting. So our goal, obviously, is to keep the comments during the Committee of the Whole meeting, the 3 items that we have, to an hour. I respectfully reserve the right to remove the 3rd item on the agenda tonight, mayoral voting, if in fact we find that we're not able to get to that prior to some time before 6 o'clock. So let's move on. Our first consideration tonight, MetroNet introduction. I'm going to ask Patty Hoppenstedt, our Assistant City Manager, to address this issue. Patty?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Over the past few months, city staff has been working with MetroNet to prepare a non-exclusive franchise agreement, similar to those currently in place with other communication services. MetroNet is one of the largest fiber optic communications service provider in the Midwest. Their services include high-speed internet, phone, and television with a wide variety of programming options. MetroNet was founded in 2004, and today they continue to grow with services available in over 32 communities in Indiana and Illinois. Communities in which MetroNet provides services or will soon be providing services include Batavia, Geneva, Montgomery, Oswego, Plainfield, Romeoville, South Elgin, St. Charles, and Sycamore. Currently, their network serves over 70,000 customers throughout the Midwest. So why MetroNet stands out is their use of 100% fiber optic network. And fiber optic networks allow much greater bandwidth, up to 100 times faster than basic broadband. Communities using MetroNet are among the first in the U.S. to receive this state-of-the-art technology. In addition to providing state-of-the-art technology, MetroNet establishes local retail stores staffed with individuals who live in the communities that they serve. These stores will allow community members to test out the services with interactive kiosks, sign up for services, pay their bills, and many other customer service-related items. So MetroNet's goal is to have a retail store up and running within 6 months of service deployment. From retail sales associates to service technicians, MetroNet will be bringing jobs to the local area. I have with me tonight Kathy Scheller from MetroNet. She's our external affairs contact who the city has been in communications with, amongst other members of the MetroNet team. And Kathy will present an overview of the company, its services offerings, and their plans for bringing fiber optic services to DeKalb. So I'd like to introduce Kathy.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Kathy Scheller, and I'm in External Affairs for MetroNet. I do have a presentation. I will not read every slide in light of keeping on time for the presentation, but I'm here today to talk a little bit about this world-class infrastructure and the impact that it will ultimately have on the residents of DeKalb. As Patty mentioned, MetroNet is 100% fiber optic. We're headquartered in Evansville, Indiana. That is where our company started. We also have offices in Kansas City as well. We've been in existence since 2004, and what we provide is absolute fiber to the home, fiber to the business, a direct connection. As I mentioned, since 2010, 2015, we've had over 200% growth, especially in the Midwest. We've been in Indiana for quite some time. We're moving into Illinois and continue to do so. We're also in Kentucky. So what we're doing is we're moving regionally around the Evansville, Indiana area and continue to deploy our fiber optics. A lot of people wonder what fiber optic connection is. We follow power. We have a really good we get along really well with ComEd. We're one of the few people that can honestly say that, I suppose, sometimes. But yes, we have a great reputation in working with them. And what we do is if power is above ground, we attach our fiber to poles. If power is underground, we attach our fiber in the public right-of-way in the back of the in the right-of-way easement for those. I just put a listing of some of the cities that we're in. Currently, we're about ready to achieve a local franchise approval tomorrow night in Yorkville. We continue to deploy in that area as well. Plano and Sandwich will be amongst our customers, and we're continuing with DeKalb and Sycamore. We do really well, quite frankly, in university towns. We find that the people that are in those towns are people who really understand the impact of technology. We offer a gig to the home. That's what we currently offer. When you have a fiberglass connection, what the difference is that is, as technology needs to increase to keep up with bandwidth, all we do is turn a dial. You have a direct glass connection. We do not use copper. So what we're bringing and making with the investment into DeKalb is a whole new infrastructure for your residents. Our approach, a lot of times when we come into communities, we're the first or the second provider to do that. One of the things that we believe is our niche is our customer service. Our organization, our mantra is that we have a passion to serve. We find that the way that we treat our customers, even from the initial deployment, is something that sets us apart from the rest. We're a company that's large enough to get the job done, but we're small enough to work really closely with all of our municipalities on the best way to educate and let their residents know a little bit about what fiber optics can do. You know, it's a real game changer for those that telecommute or work from home. We do really well adjacent to larger cities as well. It's a game changer for people. I like to say in layman's terms, you know, if you have a doctor that lives in your neighborhood, the difference with this type of infrastructure is, let's say that doctor gets a call in the middle of the night and has to go to the hospital. What this can do is he can immediately download an image before he leaves to go to the hospital. We have the capability to do that instantaneously, and more so, he can also send that image back to the hospital. So we're really well known to provide that. It's called, you know, smart telemedicine, smart city initiatives. We have residential products. Our fiber internet is probably one of the most popular items that we have because of our bandwidth. Our lowest speeds that we offer is 100 megs down, 50 megs up. That's the lowest, and our highest goes up to a gig to the home as well, with a 200 up speed. Residential, we also offer a fiber TV. When you have a direct fiber connection for your television, many times the picture is even better than HD because the images are being portrayed over pixels over glass is what we call it. We also have a residential phone, which is 100% fiber. That makes a difference a lot of people for people that work from home and really appreciate that product as well. Business products, we have a hosted PBX phone system that is state-of-the-art. We also offer wide area networks to connect medical buildings, different buildings that need to be connected together. One of the things that I think as I'm moving along here is that really sets us apart is our construction communication. We believe communication is the most important aspect of what we do, not only internally with the city, but also to your residents. And we have an extensive communication plan that lets your residents know from the moment that we achieve local franchise approval and start that deployment, who we are and what we're doing. Residents have the opportunity, we work really closely with the city, we train city personnel, they'll get information, they'll get a letter in the mail from us saying who we are, what the public right-of-way means, why our workers are there. Workers are clearly marked. We've had some extensive discussions about this. Our vans are clearly marked, all of that work, but what the public easement really is and how we're a communications provider within that easement. We send a letter, we send a postcard, we put a sign in their yard. We used to do door hangers, but nobody really uses their front door too much anymore because garages are on the side. But so what we've done is we have like a little yard stake that we put in. All of it is talking about our phone number, our website to go to if you should have any questions. We have a construction communication website. Once we come into DeKalb, and this is up and running now, people can just Google this construction communication website and see it. Your residents will have the opportunity to go. You'll see all the Illinois communities that we're deploying fiber actively. You will click on DeKalb. You'll be able to see exactly where our crews are. We work very closely with Public Works and with members of staff to every day let them know where our crews are to deploy this fiber optic infrastructure. This is just an example of some of the signs that we have. Signs up at the beginning of a neighborhood, at the on the lawn, all over the place. But we know that cities continue to get calls. Our goal is to make that as easy as possible during the deployment phase of this. Does anybody have any questions?
Alderman Fagan.
How long would it take for you to run the fiber throughout the town?
So we like to say, now our EVP of construction, he's a very aggressive construction man, and he would say 2 years, but we like to say it will take us, we can completely be in and out within 2 to 3 years, weather permitting.
Alderman Favor.
First, I want to, thank you for considering DeKalb and for bringing the technology here, as well as, another competitive option for DeKalb residents. So similar to what the other alderman asked, so are you going into an area, are you targeting the downtown first, around the campus first, or what will be the deployment?
So what we do, and as we continue to grow quite rapidly, what we will do is come in and design the entire town. So that is almost complete now. And then what we do, that communication is really important. We'll go in and explain. We have feeders that come in, for lack of a better term. So we have big feeders that will come in and provide the service for that. And we'll have a hut located nearby too as well. And so what will happen is we'll sort of start designing areas that are closest to that feeder. We do not wait until the whole town is completely built out before we turn on service. We do it gradually, neighborhood by neighborhood, as service becomes available.
Okay. And then do you have like rough ballpark pricing for residential or business?
It's interesting. When I started doing this work, they said, you don't really have to talk about pricing. You're just here to introduce the company, but it always comes down to pricing. So I forevermore understand that. First of all, the number one thing I think is extraordinary, and I've been with the company since that really big growth spurt, is there are no residential contracts. We're so confident in this infrastructure, and we want people to try this, that we have no residential contracts. We've never had any since 2004. That being said, we like for people to come in and try all of our products. So I know that when we first come in, you can get the phone, the TV. We don't bundle, but you can try all three for $69.95, and that would be 100 meg down, 50 up. To get a gig to your home, just a straight gig connection whereby everyone will stream, which is where everybody's going anyway, that's $89.95.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other comments from council? Kathy, I take it that this is an informational session, and we will then be moving forward with the possibility of a franchise agreement. Is that correct, Patty?
Yes, Mayor, that's correct. As I mentioned, we've been in discussions, and we thought this was the appropriate time to
Good.
introduce MetroNet to the community and to council, because we are approaching the period where we would be ready to bring for first reading in consideration to the city council in agreement with MetroNet.
Good. Well, thank you very much. Kathy, nice seeing you. And Patty, thank you for your presentation. Let's move right along. Item number 2. Illinois State Tollway Authority presentation on the 2018 I-88 Road, Bridge, and Ramp Construction Project. We've got Greg Chisamark to make that presentation. Greg?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. It's my pleasure to introduce the tollway representatives on a project that has been planned for some time, a number of years now. Rehabilitation of the Interstate 88, the Reagan Memorial, from Sugar Grove to Rochelle. obviously crossing DeKalb and having an impact. Want to point out a couple points of reference for you. We have been coordinating, city staff has been coordinating with the tollway over a year now on a couple different projects. One of those is the Annie Glidden at Fairview project. It's a local intersection project that the city is designing, but impacts the Annie Glidden interchange. So we've been working with the tollway. They've been very cooperative in working with us in moving that project forward. In fact, the right-of-way for that project got clearance from IDOT this morning. We'll be on the April letting for that project. Also, you may recall there's an intergovernmental agreement that the council saw and approved relative to Peace Road Bridge and First Street bridges, and that was passed a few months back. And again, the cooperation between the tollway. This presentation here is informational to let you know more details about the project, specifically talking about the timing of construction and some of the detours. And with that, I'll introduce Laura Thompson from the Illinois State Toll Authority.
Welcome, Laura.
Good evening. Well, I'm Laura Thompson. I'm the Tollway Project Manager for the 2018 construction of the Reagan Memorial Tollway from Illinois 251 to Illinois 56. See if I haven't done this in a while. Here's a quick overview of what I'll be covering. So I'll go through the general scope of the work. The impacts of the Annie Glidden interchange, Peace Road interchange, South First Street, the local crossroad bridges that will be impacted, as well as the local coordination that has been completed to date. As Greg mentioned, we will be resurfacing 37 miles of I-88 from Illinois 56 in Sugar Grove to Illinois 251 in Rochelle. With this, we'll be resurfacing. It'll be 3 inches of mill and overlay of the main line. We will be reconstructing the shoulders, installing under drains, and then replacing all new pavement markings. This will set up the tollway for a perpetual pavement as the next future improvement of the roadway. We will additionally be doing some guardrail, cable median, some drainage, landscaping, and fencing. Additionally, we'll be doing some LED lighting upgrades throughout. And we will also actually be placing the advanced embankment for the Illinois 47 and I-88 interchange, so, which is hopefully to come shortly behind this project. With the roadway work, we will be doing some of the mainline bridges as well as the crossroad bridges and some of the interchanges. This work is scheduled to start in the next few weeks, and it will go to the middle of 19. As you can see here, the mainline work will be starting, as I mentioned, in a couple weeks, and we're hoping to finish all of the mainline work in 2018. And then the Annie Glidden interchange will be under construction first. We will then move to Peace Road. There will be a winter break, and then South First Street is restricted in the contract to 2019 work. A couple of the interchanges that I'll touch on real quickly. The Illinois 251, we will do the ramps to and from the east, and those will be short, minor impacts to those. And then the I-39 interchange, we'll do some minor repairs to those as well. We will be reconstructing the Annie Glidden interchange, repairing the Peace Road interchange, and then reconstructing the Illinois 56 interchange, and that is in 2019. To start off, the Annie Glidden Road interchange, as shown here in yellow, the westbound on-ramp will be reconstructed first. This will be, at the time, the only ramp closed. That is intended to start in April and be complete prior to NIU graduation. Following NIU graduation, we will be intermittently closing the other 3 ramps. There will be a time frame that all 3 ramps will be closed at the same time, but the timing for those is mid-May to early August. It is not intended that all 3 ramps will be closed that entire duration, but there is some phasing there with the bridge, as we will be doing bridge repairs while the ramps are closed. This also plays into what Greg was mentioning with the city's project just there at the Annie Glidden and Fairview interchange. We are working on some advanced work with this project to better help out that city's project once that does get started following the completion of the tollways work. The Peace Road interchange is restricted. This interchange cannot be worked on until the Annie Glidden interchange is complete. So this is anticipated to start in around August. We will be doing some bridge deck repairs. And then we will be completing some patching on majority of the ramps. In order for the bridge work to proceed and allow for the tollway's main movement to and from the east, we will be closing the northbound traffic across the bridge, and this will be detoured over to Salmonac and then up to Illinois 38. There will be some closures to the eastbound off-ramp and the westbound on-ramp when the Peace Road interchange is being completed. This is a lot harder to see than I thought it would be. So the yellow is shown is the detours that are proposed for the Annie Glidden and the Peace Road interchanges. As I've mentioned, they were not being completed at the same time, so they will be used at alternating times. And then the turquoise color is the traffic that is northbound Peace Road across the bridge will be going over to Salmonac and Illinois 38. The detours are required, unfortunately, because we cannot provide the staging for the traffic and with the safety for the workers. South First Street, like I've mentioned before, this is restricted to 2019. In April start and hoping to be done by the end of June, maybe July for some punch list work. With this, we are going to put on a new bridge deck, and it will be widened by 3 feet. This will allow for wider shoulders on the structure. The work will be done under closed and will be detoured. So this will take roughly 3 to 4 months to do. Again, in order to complete this, we don't have enough room to be done under staged construction. Here's the South First Street detour. Again, we're primarily using Lincoln Highway, Illinois 38, over to Annie Glidden. There will be some intermittent closures for bridge work at 4th Street. This is where the I-88 bridge is over IDOT's road. This will primarily be 15-minute closures, and we will coordinate those as they are known. There will also be shoulder closures, primarily for some of the abutment work at this bridge. On I-88, the traffic will be reduced to 1 lane for majority of the 37 miles. There will be 5 to 6 mile segments that we will try to keep 2 lanes open. Unfortunately, the Reagan Memorial out here is built to our rural standards, and we can't shift traffic to allow 2 lanes to stay open at the same time. And this is needed for the safety of the workers and the drivers. Here's a list of all of our crossroad bridges. It's a lot, so I'm sorry, but we will be, I think we're touching almost every bridge between Rochelle and Sugar Grove, except for the 47 bridge. And then here is a tentative crossroad schedule of those. The bridges crossing I-88 will be staggered. No 2 adjacent bridges will be worked on at the same time. There are a significant number of them that will be closed with no detours proposed. This is necessary to complete the work in half the time, and it also reduces some of the cost. And majority of, I would say all of the crossroad bridges have been coordinated with the townships and municipalities that own those structures. Local coordination to date, we have been working with 3 different IDOT districts, DeKalb County, the City of DeKalb, DeKalb Township, NIU, and then Police and Fire. And the tollway appreciates the effort put forth by the local county, townships, and cities in helping coordinate this project for the last year and a half during design, and the tollway will continue to strive to for this coordination effort throughout the life of the project. Mr. Chris Lepley, who could not be with us tonight, is with Burns and Mack. He is on my construction management team, and he is the communication liaison appointed by the tollway. He has been working with a lot of the local agencies, and he will continue providing outreach as we switch stages and have any impacts to traffic. The email address shown on top, construction email at getipass.com, is the best way to contact the tollway should anyone have any questions. With this, our communications group can filter the questions to the most appropriate person. And additionally, the IllinoisTollway.com website will have a significant amount of information and coordination on the project. I believe I was told that should be up in the next week or so, given the start for construction. We also have daily construction alerts that give that notify customers of long-term and short-term closures. And feel free to sign up for the Twitter account. I'm not much of a Twitter person, so hopefully everyone else will take advantage of that. The tollway also has, I want to say, a team of about 40 construction managers working on this project. It is a pretty significant impact to you guys as well, as trying to get this just work done and out of the way. I believe we have been coordinating with the city on linking the tollway's website to the city's website, so that if questions do come in, you guys can pass those along to the tollway. And the tollway communications group is open if we need any emails sent out or posters, or they said they can't do mailings, is my understanding. So, but they will work with NIU as well as some of the events planned at NIU to coordinate those as best as we can. With that, thank you for the city for inviting the tollway to present the project and providing some advanced notice to the locals about the project.
Not a question necessarily, Laura, but I would think at the very least, what we would want to do as a city is to have that contact information on our website, perhaps even having a link, if you will, to the Illinois Tollway website so that we can keep our folks involved. I'm sure you've already worked on that, Greg, with Tim or whatever, but we would appreciate that. Now, let's open it up for any questions. Alderman Noriko.
I'm curious about what planning has taken place in terms of handling the increased traffic on 38, because it looks as though all the detours kind of meet on 38, and I would imagine that will be a significant amount of increased traffic, which is harder on the streets, and parking issues, and are the light schedules going to change, and some of those questions.
It's a valid concern, and it was brought up by the city during design. And typically, the tollway will monitor that, so our CM team will monitor those detours as they are put in place. There is usually about a 2 to 3 day time frame of where traffic will migrate to other routes. They will find their own ways. So we will monitor for 2 to 3 days, and then we will react as necessary. If there is significant concerns, the tollway will bring on a timing consultant to modify traffic signal timings as necessary. Additionally, I was talking to our geometrics engineer before this presentation, and he noted that when I-90 was under construction, there was about a 10% increase in traffic on 88. We can assume roughly the same as well, especially now that I-90 is widened. You will see probably about 10 to 15% of that traffic to move to I-90 rather than 88. And then the short distance trip, I know we recently did Rochelle all the way out to almost Iowa, and the short distance from in towards the suburbs out to the DeKalb area, you'll see a lot of traffic on Route 30 as well. So you will see some alternated routes there. But as I mentioned, we'll monitor the detour routes and modify as such.
Thank you.
Alderman Fagan.
You'll still have 88 open, at least one lane,
Yes.
okay? Because the way it looks like with this little diagram, it looks like you're gonna take everybody off 88. right?
No. That is just for the interchange
Right.
work.
And, you had that chart up there and where you're taking the people, this is where I live. So, I mean, I live south of the 88, so, and when you're talking about, bypassing, bringing everybody over to Salmonock Road.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so you're gonna be you're taking them off Gurler, down to Salmonock, then back up. And then, am I right, off?
Only, basically, if you are on Gurler heading north, you can still go eastbound onto 88. You just cannot basically cross the bridge.
Right.
So only that northbound traffic across.
Yeah, the
piece.
cross bridge, and that's my point. So at any one time, are you going to have Salmonock? Because I noticed the greens where you had the spring, I noticed they were overlapping, and I didn't want, First and Salmonock to be close there.
Salmonock Road is one of the first bridges to be scheduled complete, and that is done under traffic signal, so it will be open one lane in each direction, and that is done at the same time Annie Glidden is done. Once Annie Glidden is complete, the contractors will move over to Peace, so there will not be an overlap. Salmonock will be complete prior to the Peace Road interchange as well.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Alderman Verbeek.
Do you anticipate any overnight construction?
Primarily, yes, on 88, there could be. We are still waiting on our contractors and TP, which will solidify the schedule on that. So I don't know that I know the answer. My designers had told me that it was buildable during the day.
Okay.
With extended hours. Contractors don't like to work at night if they don't have to, so.
Great, yeah, we have a number of residential properties within that stretch, so thank you.
Any other comments? Alderman Jacobson.
Have we had any communication internally, or at least externally from the city standpoint, with some of the major trucking people out that are going to be affected by this on Peace Road, looking at Panduit and Target Distribution and 3M? I mean, are they fully aware that these closures are going to significantly affect their routes and some of their incoming and outgoing traffic yet?
Do you want me to answer?
We have not contacted any of those companies in particular. The public awareness component of this project really begins tonight. So there will be, there can be certainly effort to reach out to those companies to let them know of the plans for the toll rate.
Well, I don't think there can be, there should be. I mean, these are major players in our community, and we must, in my opinion at least, let them know. So I would strongly urge staff to make that move, to contact those folks. Alderman Fagan?
Tim, Fairview, that's what I'm thinking about with these trucks coming through there. So
That's absolutely been one of our concerns as well, and that's why we really haven't entertained another option besides Piece 38 and Annie Glidden, because any other option brings Fairview into play. So with the option that they have now, we're really not bringing them close to Fairview.
Okay.
Up Piece to 38 and around.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you very much, Laura. Appreciate your presentation. Greg, thank you. Let's move on to item number 3, mayoral voting. I don't know why anybody would want to discuss mayoral voting. This was at the request of Alderman Jacobson several weeks ago, and I'd like to turn it over to our city attorney, Dean Frieders.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll focus directly in on the statute applicable to the city as a municipality operating under the managerial form of government. 65 ILCS 5/5-3-5, which essentially identifies three circumstances where the mayor votes. One is where the vote of the aldermen and trustees has resulted in a tie, which is relatively straightforward. The third is where a vote greater than a majority is required, so a supermajority vote requirement such as amending the budget or approving an annexation agreement, which is also relatively clear. The second circumstance, the middle one, is where 1/2 of the aldermen or trustees then holding office have voted in favor of an ordinance, resolution, or motion, even though there is no tie vote. As we discussed briefly at the last city council meeting, in a municipality that is comprised with an even number of aldermen or trustees, so if you have 6 aldermen or trustees, that is relatively straightforward to interpret. If you have 6 and 3 vote in favor of a proposition, the mayor votes even without a tie. If you have an odd number of aldermen or trustees, as DeKalb does, then there are 2 possible interpretations. One is reading this as a threshold, essentially asking in every vote, have 1/2 of the aldermen then holding office voted in favor of the proposition. Or 2 would be to look at this as an exact standard. Have exactly 1/2 of the aldermen then holding office voted in favor of the proposition. The threshold interpretation, anytime 4 or more aldermen vote in favor of a proposition, the mayor would be called to vote. On the exact standard, in the case of 7 aldermen, it would be a vote of 3.5 aldermen in favor, which would not happen. So when does this impact outcomes? We tried to outline in the memo that of every different time the mayor votes, there's only one potential vote outcome that this has any impact. And that is when a given vote is 4-3 in favor of a proposition and the mayor votes against, resulting in a tie that fails. We also noted in the backup memo that the mayor has the authority to veto any ordinance, resolution, or motion that creates a liability, any resolution or motion that provides for an appropriation or expenditure that sells any property. In those rare cases, looking back at past council votes where a 4-4 tie has occurred and the motion has failed, I don't believe we've identified any yet that would not have been subject to the mayoral veto power. And a veto requires an override by a 2/3 supermajority of the aldermen then holding office, which would be 5 of 7 of the aldermen. So trying to construe this statute and identify when it makes sense and when it would be applicable. When would you have 1/2 of the aldermen then holding office vote in favor of a given proposition and no tie result? In the ordinary course, if you were talking about a municipality with an even number of aldermen or trustees, that is when it's most likely to come up. So assume, for example, that we have 6 aldermen and a mayor, and one of the aldermen is absent. The resulting vote of the aldermen vote on a topic, and they vote 3-2 in favor of it. If we're looking at that vote under Robert's rules, we would say that motion passes. DeKalb, as a home rule municipality, has adopted Robert's rules, which means we use that as the threshold for whether a motion passes or fails. In a non-home rule municipality, however, approving many actions requires a concurrence of a majority of the city council to pass something. So in a non-home rule municipality, you'd have to have, in our hypothetical here with 6 council members, you'd have to have 4 of the 7 overall members of the council vote in favor of something. So I'll try and unpack that a little bit. If you have 6 aldermen and a mayor, you have 1 alderman absent at a meeting, the 5 aldermen that are there vote 3-2 on a given topic. That means 1/2 of the aldermen then holding office have voted in favor of the proposition. There is no tie, but it also means that the resulting vote is only 3 of 7 in favor of that given proposition, that motion. That would be enough under Robert's rules. It is not enough for a non-home rule municipality. So in that case, this would kick in and the mayor would have the ability to vote. What are the outcomes from the mayor voting in that limited circumstance? If the mayor votes in favor of the proposition, the resulting vote becomes 4-2 in favor of the proposition and it passes. If the mayor votes against the proposition, it becomes 3-3, which is a tie vote, which results in the action not passing. So the very circumstance that has been identified as of concern to some members of council is exactly what happens when you apply this statute as it's logically intended to apply in a non-home rule municipality with the more common even number of aldermen or trustees. We have also looked at how other communities handle this given circumstance, and it's relatively uncommon to have a municipality with an odd number of aldermen, resulting in an even number on the total council. We've also identified that in large measure, municipalities spend very little time considering or talking about this and don't delve into it with the same level of detail that the city council has. So for example, in the backup, we cite to a case from Crystal Lake where their 2013 tax levy was subject to a legal challenge. They have 6 members of the council. They are home rule. They operate under the managerial form of government like DeKalb. They had the hypothetical meeting we talked about with 5 of 6 aldermen there. Their 2013 tax levy passed by a vote of 3-2. That was later subject to a legal challenge, and it was upheld through the appellate courts as being a valid vote, again, because they're home rule and they use Robert's rules as to the city of DeKalb. But in that circumstance, when the vote came up 3-2, what should have happened is the mayor's vote should have been called. And the mayor would have either voted for the proposition, passing the levy with great clarity in their record, or the mayor should have voted against the proposition, resulting in a tie and the tax levy failing, and them considering other action for their tax levy. It just happens to be the case that many municipalities do not pay careful attention to this or have not examined it with any great scrutiny. In terms of changing the mayoral vote, as we've outlined in the case law in the memorandum backup, it's considered to be a change in the form of government because it changes the relative authority of the mayor with respect to the rest of council. There's not a possibility of adopting a home rule ordinance that would give the mayor greater or lesser authority to vote than what is provided by statute. That brings us back to the 2 interpretations that we discussed, either basing it as a threshold or basing it off of a reading of this as applying where exactly 1/2 have voted in favor of a proposition. Both of those interpretations have been laid out in the memo, and I've tried to explain both of them tonight. For the reasons as outlined, the explanation of using it as a threshold is the explanation that seems to be more in keeping with the statutory scheme, but we're happy to follow whatever direction the council should wish to follow. We also briefly addressed motions to reconsider and motions in the negative in the backup memorandum. There are some questions regarding those at the last council meeting. I am happy to address those to the council's preference if there's any question on them, but we tried to be clear on both the applicable rules under Robert's Rules of Order and the history of the city council on those topics. And I'm happy to address any questions the council may have.
Dean, I thank you for what I consider an exhaustive memo. I don't know if I fully understood it, and I tried to read it twice. But I'm sure that we have some folks up here to whom it was crystal clear. So I would open it up to any comments, and if Alderman Jacobson doesn't say anything on this item, I will be very surprised. Dave, do you have any comments regarding, you brought this up a couple of weeks ago, a couple of meetings ago. I know you have some strong feelings on it, and with Dean's memo, did it clarify anything for you, or did it simply solidify what you feel is the situation where the mayor shouldn't be voting? Is that a fair question?
Sure.
Okay.
Again, my first question would be if indeed we do not have the power to change our system of government, then by extension, when we changed our system of government, allowing the mayor to vote without a referendum 2 years ago, we effectively did that. We had a form of government that was the accepted practice of past law in DeKalb for over 20 years, and then we changed that without a referendum vote. So, again, that's the first, I guess, question I have in terms of process. Clearly, we've done it in the last 2 years, and now we're being told we can't do it. So that seems rather odd. Again, in terms of some of the other backup, there's certainly direction given here in terms when we're looking at voting in motions of the negative. The last sentence of the first paragraph, it would mean that the will of the majority in a given vote was not being honored. That's what the mayor forcing ties is doing. The majority of the council, their vote is not being honored because the mayor is allowed to force a tie. The reason a mayor is allowed to veto an ordinance is because, again, it requires it to come back for more conversation and more discussion. There may be an opportunity in that discussion and engagement at the council level that someone would go over to the other side to make a supermajority. It puts the mayor in a position that they have the final vote on every issue. Well, we are at a disadvantage when we're voting to know how those numbers are going to shake out at the end. The mayor always has that power. And enforcing a tie at the end, it dies, there's no more discussion, it's over. There can't be any more progress made. Whereas in using a veto, there would be. It would come back to the next council meeting. We'd have to have more discussion. We'd understand why the mayor is either vetoing or no voting that issue. And those that had voted against the passage would then have to decide whether or not, of course, that the mayor's no vote makes sense to them, and that's why they're voting that way. I don't think we have that level now, and again, if the reality is, the law is very goofy. If you use the strict interpretation, one of us has to separate ourselves in half and stand in the hallway somewhere when we're taking a vote. Again, in reading the intent of it, it can be certainly discussed either way. In reading the long body of the entire law, it seems that it would make sense that it meant the mayor would vote in the affirmative with those people, even though it doesn't say it. It would have saved several pages of law if they would have done that. Again, it could be as simple as the mayor saying he won't do it and honoring that. I mean, it's a simple fix that the mayor can stand up and do one way or the other. I strongly believe if the mayor wants to cause a tie, that he should be using his veto power, and it should be brought back for the next meeting. But how we accomplish that is going to have to be a discussion amongst us and certainly of the law and our attorneys, so.
Yeah, thank you, David. I appreciate your bringing this. I know you were here in 2012 when council decided that we were going to go ahead and, I guess, let the mayor vote. Is that correct? And I've said to folks, and I want to keep the discussion among the council, I'm really very comfortable with what this council wants to do as it relates to this, if in fact our city attorney states that whatever we want to do falls within the legality of things. The reason that I personally like to vote is it gives the citizens of the city of DeKalb to know where I stand. But I am certainly open to any potential changes going forward. With that, any other comments?
Mayor, can I address Alderman Jacobson's concerns?
Sure, absolutely, Dean.
So I did have an opportunity to meet with Alderman Jacobson last week and talk through some of his concerns, and we spent some time crunching over the statute and reviewing its language. The first question that was raised was how there could have been a change without a referendum, and now the city council being told that they cannot make further changes. And if you go back and look at the backup memoranda on this, going back to the very first time the city council talked about this, at all times it has identified the limitations and I think probably even the same cases with regard to the council's inability to change it. What happened is the city has a old reference to a ancient statute that had long ago been repealed by the state of Illinois. And the state of Illinois, at the state level, made a change in state statute in the municipal code applicable to when the mayor votes. And the city of DeKalb simply was not following that change. So state law had changed, and the city was violating state law by not recognizing that change in the applicable state standard. That state law change supersedes anything that we would do locally. We did identify at that time, though, that very conflict when the city council last considered this, that we were citing to a statute. We said we will vote whenever this statute requires it, and that statute had been deleted by state law and replaced with a new statute. I certainly understand the concern regarding the will of the majority of council when the mayor forces a tie. The council is comprised of the alderman and the mayor. So in the event that there is a tie, that inherently means that there is not a majority vote of council. And we certainly did discuss your concern regarding the mayor voting in the affirmative, and as you indicated, that would simplify things greatly, but it is not in the statute. However, you did raise a number of questions regarding the mechanisms for resolving this simply by agreement of the council, and that certainly is within the council's province if that's the conclusion that you come to. we're trying to have the greatest level of transparency possible, and that's why the memo was so detailed and lengthy, so that council can reach whatever policy conclusion you wish to have, and we will do our very best to implement it.
Keeping in mind that the mayor is not voting right now, but I would like to see if there is any consensus, if there are any comments regarding this. If not, I would think that if someone wants to bring it to another council meeting, we can do that. As you know, it takes only two of you to say we want to discuss this further. So, Alderman Orico?
I'm concerned with bringing items back to council because it's an issue that the mayor has vetoed. Bringing it back after, the next meeting, it feels like the aldermen who voted one way are being manipulated, coerced into changing their votes. I can understand bringing issues back for reconsideration after a reasonable period of time, much as we did with the issue of smoking on the patio. But to bring it back, almost immediately, it just seems like a futile exercise.
Alderman Verbeek.
We elect a mayor. I believe that mayor has earned the right to vote. And if it so happens to be the tie vote to create the tie, to eliminate or motion, or failing that motion, then so be it. But I do believe, as Dean mentioned, the mayor is a part of council and elected to vote for the people.
Anything else? Well, again, until such time that we want to discuss this further, I would think that we will continue going forward, and if someone wants to bring this back, they're certainly entitled to do so. Does that sound fair enough? Okay. There be no any public participation on this? If not, I'm going to call for an adjournment of our committee of the whole meeting, and we'll start our city council meeting promptly at 6 o'clock. I would ask for a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. We'll resume at 6 o'clock, city council. Thank you.
Schedule it yet?